Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to theCUBE's live coverage of Fal.Con 2025 here in Las Vegas, Nevada at the MGM Grand. I'm your host, Rebecca Knight, alongside Dave Vellante, my co-host and co-founder of theCUBE. I would like to welcome Jaifar Al Mamari, Head of Cybersecurity at Vodafone Oman, direct from Oman. Thank you so much for coming on theCUBE, Jaifar.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. We were just speaking about it. 24 hours flying in, it's a long way to come.
Yes,
but it's worth it.
Well, you seem remarkable for being as jet-lagged as you must be right now. So let's really get into it, because you had the really unique and special opportunity to build Vodafone Oman's security operations from the ground up with no legacy systems and do it from scratch. Talk about what that was like and what were some of the first big decisions that you had to make.
Sure. So Rebecca, having to build that is really a blessing, but it can be a curse as well, right? I mean, it's a blessing that you don't have any legacy with you, but it's a curse because you need to deal with it differently, right? You need a different mindset. I mean, how am I going to secure this? If everything is on cloud, how am I going to do my defenses? How am I going to put my parameters or firewalls, right? So it requires a complete shift of strategy and mindset. And I knew from day one, since we are adopting a cloud-first strategy, we need someone or a partner that's already cloud native, that understands cloud, that can go into virtual machines or SaaS applications or containers, wherever we need them. And this is why I decided to go with CrowdStrike. But to be honest, even initially we started with the basic stuff with them, right? I mean, we grew naturally. We were like, let's test their EDR capabilities, let's see what they have here. Also, one pillar of my strategy was as well, I didn't want to have the best of breed, let's say, right? Having 20 different solutions, not integrated, in silos, you know, just a hassle to manage. So I really wanted something that I can consolidate, that I can integrate, that can be easy to manage as well, make my security operations easy. So today in Vodafone, I only have 4 people doing everything from A to Z, not just the SOC. This is like the engineering part, the governance part, everything. So my SOC is quite lean and efficient, and CrowdStrike was one of the strategic partners that I had to deal with and work with to build this cybersecurity efficient operation.
If I could ask you, follow up on that.
Sure.
When you say you didn't want best of breed, I infer from that you mean you didn't want to just choose a bunch of best of breed tools that weren't integrated.
Yes.
But my question is sort of a philosophical one. Can you be an integrated platform and best of breed?
Yes, of course you can. That is of course, I mean you can. If you think at the ranking of CrowdStrike, for example, they rank the best in the EDRs, they rank the best in other sectors as well. So they are best of breed, but not in every area. So in threat intel, yes, they are the best of breed. You know, when it comes to EDR, yes, they are. But if you think about it, in vulnerability management, not really. You know, I could have gone with another vulnerability management solution. But having a vulnerability management integrated into your Falcon platform gives an immense value to all of your detections, because all of a sudden, instead of you just having to deal with a vulnerability in silo, you deal with it in the whole context of things. And the APTs, what are they doing in my region? Is this, who are people targeting telecom industry also using a vulnerability within my environment? So I can do a lot of correlation as well, right? I can prioritize what to patch, what not to patch. So there is a lot of value by having even the small stuff. I do this not just with CrowdStrike, so I have few strategic partners and I just go all the way. You know, keep it very efficient, keep it very lean, and then, you know, maximize, automate.
What's interesting is, Rebecca and I were just talking, we were here 4 years ago, and this ecosystem was much, much smaller.
Yeah.
Now it's all these, you
see
so
heaving,
many.
in case you can't tell at home.
They need a bigger boat. So, so an example would be SASE. Maybe they partner with Zscaler or identity with Okta, even though people confuse CrowdStrike identity with Okta. We don't have to go there. How do you decide sort of how to build that ecosystem? Because you don't want tools creep, is what you kind of indicated. Most of your peers are struggle to reduce the number of tools in their security stack. They have all this technical debt, but at the same time, something new comes up, so they go for best of breed, try to plug a hole. How do you balance that?
So it's very simple. I have a problem, I have a risk I need to deal with. I need some controls, right? Let me go to the existing partners I have today. Anyone have a solution? Yes, let's test it out. The beauty about Falcon platform as well, you can, you know, sign up on the fly for 2 weeks trial on any of their modules. You don't have to talk to your account manager. You don't have to do anything. It's just a click, and then it's enabled. Figure it out, test it out. Do you like it? Does it add value? Does it solve your issue or control? If it does, perfect, because it's already there. You don't even have to. Some modules, I kid you not, I started with the 2 weeks, and then I saw huge value. For example, on the vulnerability, I called my account manager, I said, just keep it, and it's already built in. No need to invest in, adding something, building something, a project. That's it. It's already live from day one. And this really, gives me time to do other stuff. And it's all about scale and speed, right?
The onboarding experience, the onboarding experience is like the cloud.
Exactly.
Click here,
exactly.
spin up a virtual machine, and you go.
Yeah. There you go.
So you're talking about this rigorous of prioritization, reprioritization, and focus. So how does this workflow impact your team's relationship with IT operations?
Beautiful. We are enablers. We're enablers. We make it easy for them, And because you can do, automate so many of the things, it becomes like, okay, let's do a workflow, automate it, and then just monitor that workflow. So in the example of the vulnerability management, we only prioritize based on the expert rating from CrowdStrike. So if the expert rating says it's critical, then we deal with it critical. We take it, that until automated, create a ticket, assign it to the, the vendor that is managing that system. And that's it. And this all happens automatically every single month. Take, do, and see. And we just monitor how many ones are closed and open month by month. And that's it.
What are the similarities and differences of protecting your customers and Vodafone Oman in your region? What are the unique and salient attributes there versus, say, Vodafone in other parts of the world, in EMEA or in Europe, for instance?
Unfortunately, Dave, there's not so much intel. There's not so much threat intel. So if you look at the threat intel that is focused on our region, it's not as heavy or as rich as versus Europe or the US, right? So there could be a lot of things happening and we don't have intel or previous intel about it. So you really need to be very proactive, very, very proactive. So this is a big challenge that we're facing. And to be honest, what keeps me up at night is these ones, is the APTs that all the threat intelligence are not even tracking, and they're just doing things on my region. So they're not in the radar of CrowdStrike or Recorded Future or whoever, right? So that makes it very challenging for us, We need to be able to detect, protect, and keep up with all these emerging things. Some of the stuff that are really, just specifically to the telecom industry. Now we see threat actors are trying to breach through telecom protocols, not even using IT protocols, and that's very unique. This is challenges that are not even solved today, So there's a lot of challenges in the industry and in the region by itself.
So the threat intelligence isn't as global as sometimes we like to think it is.
No, it's not.
Because essentially you're in a niche adversary world, and they're coming up with novel threats that aren't widely visible.
Are you the testing ground in a way?
In so many cases, yes, it will be, 100%. I'm pretty sure there are some, unique phishing techniques that are, only working in that region. And if no one is looking into that, then good luck.
So you have a red team that intentionally tests OverWatch detection capabilities.
Yes.
What have those exercises taught you about your security posture, and what's your recommendation for other organizations like yours in terms of doing these kinds of red teaming tests?
So OverWatch, I think, is a secret weapon of CrowdStrike. So many people, they don't realize the power of OverWatch. But imagine you're getting a service, and then you have one of the best teams in the world that are fighting the top APTs, looking into your environment, enriching your detections, flagging the stuff that cannot be flagged by your team for the lack of capabilities or whatever the scenario is. But that assurance is amazing. So that's on one side. On the other side, I also like to do my own testing and purple teaming. I'm not going to just wait for OverWatch to do everything. And in all of the cases, let's say, all of our testing was detected by OverWatch. They don't know it's a testing or a red team happening, and I love that when I see it. I say, yes, my supporters in the US are awake and they're picking things up. Yes, this was part of the testing, let's close this ticket. And that's a validation. I even tell this to my management. Sometimes you buy stuff and they don't know the value, they don't see it. And I say, look, we run these tests. Last week, it was a test, they don't know about it, it was flagged as a breach. How beautiful is that?
You were saying that you wanted cloud native, kind of starting with a blank sheet of paper, if you will. But you also secure private clouds,
Yes.
hybrid clouds. We've noticed a trend in the US, I wonder if it's true in your region, where not everything's going into the cloud. People want to bring the intelligence, the AI to the data, is kind of the buzz phrase. And a lot of, particularly in financial services, I don't know if it's the case in telco, but I imagine it would be, they're building their own on-prem AI stacks. But there aren't as many solutions as there are in the cloud. The cloud's got one of everything. And so look at AWS, it's amazing. And same with Microsoft and Google. How are you seeing that in the region? How are you dealing with that sort of diversity or lack of tooling on-prem versus in the cloud? Are you seeing that trend to bring AI to the data?
This is, Dave, this is one of the most challenging questions to the regulators. The regulators are confused. They don't know what to do. They're saying for people on one hand, stay on-prem, protect your data, but then the solutions are all powered by cloud solutions, It's not, you cannot afford to train your own LLM with security, let's say, cybersecurity, you cannot. It's too expensive for you to do. So the next best thing is rely on someone who already done it, who have an LLM, trained on all the tactics and techniques and all the attacks that happened in the last decades or two, and use it. And who have this is a question actually I ask for everyone. Who have the most mature LLM that is enriched with cybersecurity data? I think CrowdStrike, if it's not the only one, it's one of the leading ones.
What about public policy in the region, specifically around things like sovereign AI, sovereign cloud? I was talking to AWS recently, and this one individual's, maybe this is not AWS speaking for AWS, but this one individual's premise was, like the early days of cloud, when everybody's afraid of the cloud, eventually people will become more comfortable and they'll be able, through whatever, VPCs or whatever, be able to create a sovereign-like cloud. The other that I talk to in government say, no, we want to have our own private cloud, sovereign cloud. What are you seeing in the region? And what role does Vodafone Oman play in that?
To be honest, Dave, as I told you, they are struggling, right? I mean, the force of cloud is just too good. I mean, even Microsoft is more secure on cloud. Imagine if you had the exchange, vulnerability.
Yeah.
It's crazy,
No,
huh?
right.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So it's inevitable going to the cloud, right? But then how can we protect our data and so on? This is the question. So, for example, in Oman, we see a trend where, okay, let's do a mixture. We have this discussion all the time with the regulator. Guys, allow us to put more things on public clouds. And say, no, data and okay, let's reach to a middle ground. How about I do the data plane within country and the control plane and the logic on cloud? Is that okay? Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, how about if we're talking about a call center solutions? What is sensitive about this? The voice recording. Okay, how about I keep the voice recording within and all the functionality abroad? Is that okay? Yeah, that seems like a good idea. Why don't we do that? And this is the kind of discussion that we're getting into, yeah?
Everything's a one-off.
Yeah. But it makes it difficult because, and I understand their position, right? They cannot say, yeah, just do whatever you want, and then they get blamed for it. But eventually we can reach a middle ground where, we can work around it. Okay, let's say our data is there. Okay, how about we encrypt it? How do we send it? Can we create a separate tunnel that you guys are comfortable with instead of just pushing it through the public internet? And these kind of discussions, I think, can help us, reach somewhere, by adopting the future and still, having some sort of control and, securing the stuff.
So Vodafone Oman was the first group within Vodafone to adopt CrowdStrike. What are you sharing in terms of the lessons that you've learned and the best practices with other markets?
So as I told you, they are very interested in the efficiency that I have created using CrowdStrike. How do you maintain a small team? These are the questions. How do you keep up a small, How do you automate this stuff? Because the way I use CrowdStrike is not just a dashboard and, I click. I integrate with an API, with my whole, security stack. So we do a lot of automation with our SOAR, moving things here and there. So they're very interested about, okay, how did you manage the vulnerability using CrowdStrike? Does it work if you prioritize using the expert rating or not? How is the intelligence working? Do you enrich it with something else? And I actually do, You cannot sometimes also with intelligence just rely on one source. So I have multiple sources. Let me enrich CrowdStrike but having it centralized in one place makes it so much easier and efficient instead of having these, multiple systems and solutions.
The automated SOC, the full self-driving,
yeah.
must have resonated with you, George Kurtz's keynote, because you have a highly productive staff. I mean, you're doing a lot with very little. So I think we generally understand the upsides of automation. What are some of the gotchas? What are some of the downsides that you would, maybe it's not downsides, but some of the cautions that you might share with some of your peers?
Two things. One, LLM today in cybersecurity is not as mature as we think it is. So don't let it take the driving seat, you know. Still, use it, but have an oversight over that, okay? That is very key. The second thing is, you really need to know what is your use case. So I'll give you an example. I have certain use cases where, for example, it's the employee stuff, and I'm comfortable allowing the AI to make a decision. At the end of the day, the impact, even if it's a false positive or a true positive, or whatever the scenario is just an individual machine. But doing that on my, critical infrastructure or critical servers, I cannot do that. So this is my policy. I have different policies, even on the prevention side. Hey, no, don't take full preventions. And this is a beauty, by the way, you can do on Falcon. You can decide the detection part and the response part. So you can say, I want full visibility, full detection, but on the response, no. I'm comfortable only with this much. The rest, I want a human to intervene and then make a decision. So these are really two key things that we need to be very mindful with. Yes, automation AI very nice, but don't let it be taking decisions that maybe the board will call you one day for.
So last question, what is next with CrowdStrike and Vodafone Oman?
So we've been doing so many things with them, okay? One of the things I'm excited about is to see the future of Charlotte AI. Now, today you've seen maybe in the keynote, they are moving to more agentic. Instead of just having Charlotte AI, we're going to have 7 agents. I'm very excited to see. What am I going to do with these 7 agents, Do I need my analyst in 2 years or no? I don't know. These are questions I'm going to ask myself, right? So the agent part, having someone looking into malware only, or having someone only responding, or have someone just communicating for the management. That's really cool.
I heard a new term today in the keynote, security AGI. I hadn't heard that before. We actually, George Gilbert coined the term enterprise AGI. We have AGI. Yeah. Enterprise AGI refers to an organization's own private data that they want to apply in language, their own language models, doesn't seep into the internet, doesn't get trained by, ChatGPT. But does that analogy apply for security AGI? In other words, do you have specific proprietary security protocols, data, intelligence that you want to apply to AI that nobody else will have access to? Or is it different in security because you want to share with the good guys, or maybe you don't want to share with anybody? How do you think about that?
This is the exact question, Dave, I was having today with one of the CrowdStrike employees, Ryan, right? She is struggling to sell the idea. In some countries, they're very conservative. They say CrowdStrike is on cloud, so let's not do. But I told her, come on, you know what you're sharing to the cloud. It's not like you're putting everything on the cloud. It's only your process names, your hashes, your connection, which actually you want to share with as much people as you want. 9/11 happened. What was it? Post 9/11, it's lack of sharing, huh? We did what they call it is the opposite of lack of sharing is the confidentiality and keep everything. And then the agency said, no, we had so much intelligence, but we didn't just share it with enough people to pick that up. Similar thing on cyber. Seriously, we need to share more stuff. While not sharing our actual data, we're sharing telemetries, we're sharing stuff. Some of the management, or let's say companies, they mix stuff because it's very technical. I say, okay, listen, I'm going to show you exactly what I'm putting on the cloud. These are the lists. These are the stuff I'm sharing. Do you have any issues with the file name or hash file? No, I don't care. That's it.
Excellent. Well, Jaifar, a pleasure having you on. You are now a CUBE alum, so thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. I'm happy to be here with theCUBE.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you,
I'm Rebecca Knight for Dave Vellante. Stay tuned for more of theCUBE's live coverage of Fal.Con 2025. You're watching theCUBE, the leader in enterprise tech news and analysis.